Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a very special LR Mornings. Today with Kyle, Manny, and a guy who's never been on LR Mornings before, Gig. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, great. I have been on LRMornings.
Oh, without me.
Without you.
Got it. So it's half LR Morning.
Without you. I think what it is that you guys cover everything so much about Disney that that you guys don't invite me on for anything else, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we get Jace and Mike that want to jump in with DC stuff very, very fast and very often. But for those of you that don't know Gig, you should. And the one of the best ways to get to know him through our site, of course, is the YouTube channel, where Gig, along with Manny and Nancy, are just slaying it out there in the interview Zoom trenches. Gig, tell us a little bit about some of the people you've gotten to speak to recently, and some of the exciting projects you've heard about.
I just get to speak to anybody and everybody who actually is promoting, whether it's a small film or large film or even television. We're the part of the LRM that actually covers everything else actually on the site. That's not Marvel, that's not Disney, that's not Star Wars, which seems to be where a lot of our core staff is. So they're LRM, we do actually cover everything else. We cover indies, we cover horror,
Yes.
we cover romance, we cover action films, we cover, animation, we cover, Chinese action movies. We cover the rest. And the only difference is that we don't have a multimedia regular podcast to discuss that universe and so on. But I'm here now, and that's just because, from my understand, I stepped into your guys' territory.
You did.
Where
you got to see a movie.
Yeah, once in a while, you guys like to talk about DC stuff. How often do you guys talk about DC stuff? Like every couple of weeks or something like that?
It's recently been a lot more than Manny would like, I bet. I don't know, man. Manny, what do you think? Are we talking about DC?
Same. No, I feel the same way sometimes. I feel like it's so oversaturated sometimes with Star Wars and Marvel that I don't. I was just telling somebody yesterday, I think, I was like, you know what? I don't like Star Wars as much anymore because of how much I have to hear about it.
Out. Then let me correct it. Manny, how sick and tired of hearing Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Well, I mean, I've told many people this: if you give a mouse a cookie, they're gonna ask for a glass of milk. So it's never gonna end.
Never.
Now they're asking for the Snyderverse. So yeah, it's just now a part of fandom that we're gonna have to deal with.
Yeah. Gig, what's your background with DC, man? Is that like your milk and honey right there as far as superheroes concerned, if you have any?
For the DC part? No, I'm honestly, I am the part of the division that's probably the non-fanboy part. So if I'm actually coming to you, talking to you right now, I'm coming from a non-fanboy perspective, because you have to realize comic book films would probably make up less than 5% of the movies that I actually watch. Like one of the things I was joking around the other day. I think one of your podcasters, Nick, tweeted about the Oscars, on how he hasn't seen any of them whereas I have seen all of them.
Yeah.
So it's quite a difference. It's quite a different world if you actually talk about it, because sometimes you're in one world, and then sometimes there's the Martin Scorsese who talks about movies, and then you're like dismissing him, but then you have to forget he's in a different room. He comes from a different perspective, because he probably seen all those movies that got nominated, whereas some of us just specialize on only Marvel, Star Wars, and Disney all the time. So in reality, if you're asking about if I seen comic book movies and all this kind of stuff, the answer is yes.
But you don't have a horse in the race.
Okay, yeah, and the reason why I come from that perspective is because it's my job to know that stuff too, because my job is to know everything, because who do I know that I would actually have to eventually have to talk to?
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Because there's a possibility that a Marvel, Star Wars, or Disney project will come onto my lap, or a Zack Snyder's Justice League come onto my lap. In my opinion, it is actually unfair, is because personally, I think Manny should have came onto Manny's lap, but sometimes the studios like to pitch, or they want to work with somebody, or they want to spread out their message amongst like a diversity type of core of press people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not a good idea just to only pitch it to only fanboys sometimes. You know what I mean? And that's their marketing strategy.
Yeah. And I'm a lot like you with enjoying a crap ton of other movies, which is why I've expanded this show to an hour and video, things like horror. I got a big spot where a bookshelf's going to go. It's going to have all my horror stuff in it. Indie films, you start thinking about things like what Nolan did with Memento and was it Alaska or Insomnia, but he was just a producer on that one, I think. Anyways, it's there is a crap ton of entertainment out there, and it's wonderful to watch. There's way more than comic book movies, but we are here to talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League because it's gotten an immediate response a couple nights ago that seemed all positive from people like Grace Randolph and some other trades. I think THR and Variety he may have had their reviews out, and they were both pretty decent. But some fans have also come out with other voices, and it's great that you're here as a non-fanboy, as a movie guy, and as a movie journalist guy to kind of give us your spoiler-free take on Zack Snyder's Justice League. First off, let me ask, man, does it feel like 4 hours?
It felt like 5 to 6 hours.
Jeez.
Quite honestly. I know that you actually got some positive vibes out of it yesterday, and or Sunday was when they actually start tweeting about their reactions. Yesterday was when they actually started with the reviews, and that's because the very first reviewers that would always react are the fanboy reviewers.
Yes,
they're the ones that will always put out their reactions to anything and everything comic book wise, because that's a lot of things that they actually covered. That's why when every time there's a Marvel movie that comes out, they'll say, "Oh, Captain Marvel is the best movie ever." Okay. And then after that, then they said, "No, Avengers is the best movie after." And then they would say, Wonder Woman is the best movie after. So if you actually go back to some of their reactions and comments, they'll keep on raising that bar, calling everything the best movie ever.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to debate with colleague of mine who's a movie reviewer, and he called Zack Snyder's Justice League as the best superhero movie ever made in both DC and Marvel Universe. And I could tell you from a non-fanboy perspective, it is far from that. Okay. And there are some of the people who reviewed it yesterday called it a masterpiece, but someone tweeted out yesterday that a masterpiece means it's perfect. You don't give a 9 out of 10 or 4 out of 5 and they call it a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's
okay.
true.
It's
sitting at a 79 on Rotten Tomatoes right now with 76 with 107 reviews in. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah. And just to let you know, a 76 on Rotten Tomatoes for a comic book movie is not good.
No.
In comparison to the other, Marvel movies that actually have came out. It will get to be a fresh tomato, but it is actually a low bar. I think like Wonder Woman 1984 came out to be maybe about like a 50 or 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And if you followed, some of the Twitter and critics reviewers, some of them initially came out saying it was one of the best Wonder Woman movies that they ever seen.
It was terrible.
And it was just downright horrible. Yeah. So sometimes you have to take, fanboys, criticism, how can you say, with a grain of salt. But if you're asking me, because the very, very first thing that everyone's going to point out about the Zack Snyder thing is the 4 hour and 9 minute length. Does it feel like 4 hours and 9 minutes? I have watched it twice. The second time I watched it during daylight saving times, which we all joked that it was 5 hours. It literally feels like you probably watch multiple movies. Oh. And I think it should have been multiple movies. I think it would have been better if they went with that format, because there's no way anyone, because it comes out in theaters this Friday. Mm-hmm. Okay, for a lot of theaters, I believe Los Angeles and New York, it comes out in theaters. California is starting to open up, and there's no way anyone's going to watch 4 hours and 9 minutes in a theater where you're going to have to be paying $10 for popcorn and soda for 4 hours, and you can't hit the pause button.
I think there's a lot of people that might see it in IMAX, but I think you're right about regular theaters. It's not going to do much. But
yeah, it's
IMAX.
It's not.
Maybe. Manny, hearing that it feels longer than 4 hours, man. I know you've already got some, we've all got expectations of this movie, but what is that? Does that give you hope for tomorrow night, late in the night?
So the mentality is not to go expecting much and just enjoy it as a fan, to get to see certain characters in certain moments, because the fact of the matter is the Justice League film already came out a couple years ago, and essentially it's still going to be the same story, just longer.
Yeah.
So I can honestly see how it would feel longer now if you're just adding scenes to it, because you're still traveling to the same place as far as the story. It's just stretched out a lot more. So it's just I'm going to watch it as a fan, yeah, but I'm not expecting it to be that work of art, or that Snyder was right that some people are claiming on Twitter, because it's not going to be that.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they moved away from it in the first place.
Gig, how many bathroom breaks did you take? No, I'm joking.
Actually, if you really want to know, first time I watched it, I paused it maybe about 3 or 4 times, and I fell asleep.
Oh wow, jeez.
However, just to go off of Manny's remarks here, if you actually go to watch this movie with a low expectation, it's a good movie.
Oh,
okay.
Explain,
and I'll explain it this wise, because the other Justice League movie was just downright horrible.
Right.
Okay. The bar has been set so low that anything could be better than the previous Justice League movie. So in this case, the Zack Snyder one will have an easier time. My worry is that if you get hyped up so much, expecting a masterpiece, expecting perfection, okay, you're expecting, something at the caliber of, Marvel Avengers Endgame or something like that, then you're setting yourself up as disappointed. So in reality, I think if you actually just go in and say, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy the movie. I've seen this movie before, and just pretend it is a movie that's 3 hours of deleted scenes.
Okay, interesting. So that core story of Steppenwolf, the mother box, because he was one of the first ones to come out and be like, I'm not filming anything extra. Everything I filmed is there. I don't like what they did, but whatever. Like he was like that. Is it still pretty much that same core story, just with a shit ton of deleted scenes?
Well, hold on. What it is that he has changed a few scenes there that didn't work for him, because you have to remember, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. When Joss Whedon took the project, he only kept like 70%, less than 70% of Zack Snyder stuff, or is it the opposite? Or is it 30%?
Low amount. I think it was 30-40, wasn't it, Manny? Yeah, it was a low amount, and he shot a bunch of new stuff for it as well, and you can feel where it feels wrong, but like I said, I knew that Syrian Hines, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Syrian Hines,
yeah, had said that he hadn't there was nothing that he had filmed that either wasn't used or wasn't sitting in a can. So when I started thinking about that and this movie, I was like, well, you're still going to end up somewhere fighting in an empty town unless you decided to digitally add people to up the drama, and the stuff with Steppenwolf still kind of has to happen the way it happened.
Well, the plot is still written by Chris Terrio in both movies. So the Steppenwolf and the those magic boxes, that's still going to be the core story.
Okay.
What it is that you have to delete some of the Joss Whedon's humor stuff and his focus on specific characters. And I'll get into that when you actually, if you want to have minor spoilers.
Absolutely.
But like for example, one of the most teased lines that I joke about from the Justice League movie, the original one, that I thought it was the most downright horrible thing that could ever happen in any movie, is when Lois Lane goes up to Superman and basically says, "You smell good." Okay, that was out like in the cornfield. I don't know if you guys remember that. That is gone out of this new version. Okay, but the problem is, for some of us who have seen that movie, when it comes to like Lois Lane and Superman, because I did actually see with a small group of people, we're all snickering, just basically whispering to ourselves like, "Well, you smell good." So there is that shadow of the old
that's funny.
Old Justice League that kind of still hovers. So even if you actually delete certain scenes, so I want to say half or possibly more of the Joss Whedon stuff has been replaced.
Manny, take over a little bit, man. Ask him to describe stuff, do post things.
I actually, one of the most basic things that I want to know, and it's probably an easy question to answer, is Clark Kent's Henry Cavill's face CGI'd in any of this, or is it?
You know what? Um, I want to say it is hard to tell because I did not see this on IMAX.
Okay.
I saw it on a small screen, and then I saw it on a projector. So in all cases, I did not see this on 4K, and our screener format was not a widescreen; it was letterbox, which I thought that was actually the most strangest thing to send out a screener on a letterbox format. Rather than on a widescreen, because it would have been awesome if this was on widescreen. So all I could say is that when it comes out Thursday and it's
Mhm.
not on widescreen, then I'm going to be even terribly more disappointed.
Uh,
But when you're watching this on the small screen, I guess it's nice is that you can't tell it's CGI, right?
yeah.
So whatever it is, a film like this looks beautiful on the small screen rather than on a large screen. But it's like what was it? I don't know if you guys remember a movie called The Hobbit. I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys remember the
No,
movie.
I
called
don't think I can remember
but
that one.
but when The Hobbit first came out, it was one of those first films where it bragged that it was on 60 frames per second or something like that,
Something.
instead of the usual 2024
Didn't they film it
frame
on the red
on the Red Epic cameras. Yeah. And when you watch a movie like that for the first time on the large screen, it was very noticeable is because when you're watching it, you could see the makeup
Mm-hmm.
on the actors. Okay, because when you do it on that type of camera, the clarity was so clear that it looked fake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then now you watch The Hobbit on the small screen, on HBO Max, and you're saying, "Oh wow, those trolls look great." So there is probably going to be a huge difference if you see this in the theaters
Kitty.
or not. So so for the CGI Superman, I could tell you I personally can't tell, but I'm sure when you get to watch it in a couple of days, you're probably going to do a follow-up podcast to discuss
we're trying to get the many as the website as we can that think they can watch it before 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday to do a review of it. But just to work in the Tech Tuesday segment in the middle of the review, it's funny that you mentioned the frame rates, cameras, and people's eyes. I used to be, I guess technically still am. I don't play computer games much anymore, but I used to be a big PC gamer. So I've had like 120 hertz, 144 hertz refresh rate monitors for years. I played games over 60 frames per second for way before the PS3's day and age, right? And so I actually kind of like I know a lot of movie buffs hate it, but I like the extra crispness and clarity, especially in graphics heavy things, because I guess I've spent so much time in that virtual world that it almost feels more real than motion blur. Like games where you can turn motion blur on to make it more real. I turn that shit off. I want glorious, pure frame rates that look great. So I really enjoy that. You mentioned the aspect ratio being an issue for you. Do you gig prefer 24 frame per second over a higher frame rate for a movie?
Quite honestly, I come from more of the indie world, so I prefer the story. And the dialogue, that kind of stuff,
Okay.
rather than
So it doesn't bug you.
It doesn't bug me. I'm not watching it for the glitz and and the glamour and so on. I mean, if I'm actually sitting here talking about the glitz and glamour, then I would be saying, wow, Steppenwolf would be very impressive with the new armor because it's so shiny, so
Predator,
pointy,
Megatron armor.
Yeah, and then if you compare that to his the previous Justice League, it's night and day.
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest comments that a lot of people will actually bring up. In the comparison between this Justice League and the previous Justice League, does it look better and so on? Of course, it's going to look better. They actually had 3 years to work on it.
Well, they had time to work on Wonder Woman 84, and that was one of my biggest complaints. Is I saw that movie and I was like, you guys had post for almost a year, and this is what you turned out. Manny, last bit on the Tech Tuesday segment. Do you prefer 24 frames per second for film, or are you okay with other formats, aspect ratios?
Actually, I'm going to end up stealing Gig's answer as well, just
Doesn't
because
matter.
of the fact that, well, it doesn't matter. Sometimes actually, because like Gig, I covered enough indie films that when you use some filmmakers use like even 35 millimeter, or they use really old school ways of shooting to get certain grit, and sometimes it's not really about the look because of the budget, but you got to focus on other little things like plot and also acting.
Yes.
Some people's performances in indie films is fantastic and it gets overlooked. And so when going to talk to filmmakers or actors that are in these projects, you need to look at some of these little things, because it's some of these things that you can point out and highlight during your conversations with them, and they really appreciate that kind of stuff, because they're never going to get the glamour or the podcast or on Twitter the raving reviews that a Justice League is going to have, even though maybe it doesn't even have a quarter of the story that some of these indie films have. But so when it comes to the visuals of the film, as far as what it's filmed on, that's near the bottom of my list.
Cool. Well, way to ruin Tech Tuesday. I'm saying you guys go out and get high refresh rates. That's what I'm saying, especially for gaming, because if you've got a 4K TV budget, no HDR, and it's only able of 30 frames per second, it's got like a fake 60. Go spend the money on a 1080p true 60 hertz monitor. Anyways, Gig, without giving us too many spoilers, first give us your take on it, your score of Justice League, something you liked, something you didn't like, and then we'll give a little bit of a spoiler warning and go into light spoilers.
Sure.
That sound good, Manny?
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. You know what? I'm just going to go straight up and tell you what my score is, and then
Okay.
I will explain it. And just to reiterate, my perspective is from a non-fanboy perspective. So I'm not a Marvel specialist. I'm not a DC specialist. I'm not a comic book specialist. I'm just much more of a regular person who actually, watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. So my grade is actually a solid C. Okay. Now, some of you guys may be surprised, saying, wow, a C is actually horrible. Well, what that basically, what I'm saying is it's passable. Okay. It's not the best superhero movie out there, and it's not the worst superhero movie out there. If I had to rank DC films, the first Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman was better than this. Shazam, to me, was better than this. But I'm also coming from the perspective that Zack Snyder's, which one was it? The first Superman, and he also did Batman versus Superman, if I correct.
Yes.
Those movies bore me to death.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to say that this movie was kind of in line with his the other Zack Snyder's film. So take take it as you will. So it depends on whether you considered the previous Zack Snyder movies the best movies out there. Because I do know some people love those Zack Snyder movies. They would probably grade those as A's.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are, and quite the opposite. And I would say this is passable because, as I said before, the bar was actually pretty low. Now, let me go through what I liked about the film.
Yes.
First of all, Ray Fisher's cyborg was something I hated about the original film. Okay. To the point that I have never been on Ray Fisher's side in whatever debate that his beef with Warner Brothers. And that's because his performance in the original Justice League movie was so downright disastrous that by no means I don't want to see him in another movie. At this point, his career is over because of that. Okay. Now, after watching this version of Justice League, where they very much expanded his background, his plot, and his scenes, now you have to sit back going, oh, you know what? Cyborg is actually a decent character. Okay. Because now you get to know where Cyborg actually comes from, his motivation, everything. And then now I'm like sitting back going, okay, you know what? Now I'm starting to somewhat sympathize. Maybe Ray Fisher deserves a second chance on screen. So that was one of the things I did actually like. The second thing that I did actually like was they changed the Flash a little bit. From the first Justice League movie, I think he was just the comic relief in the first Justice League because, he was just like funny. Joss Whedon wanted to put him in there just to, for laugh and jokes and all this kind of stuff. The Flash has a much more expanded role. In fact, his role is very integral in this movie. That will kind of lead to the next Flash movie per se. So I did actually like that. Okay, so I like the fact that they expanded Cyborg and Flash storyline. Okay, but that was about it from my perspective. What I didn't like was that I feel like they have problems trying to balance out the characters. Whereas the first Justice League, Joss Whedon knew that he should concentrate on Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, and possibly Aquaman, because those are the core characters. Those were the movies at the time that everybody was talking about. So this way, you kind of put Cyborg and the Flash, in the back burner. And for this movie, I think there was a struggle trying to balance it all with all the characters. And so now you're going to see less of the other characters, or they don't prove to be much more memorable because you're so focused on the Flash and Cyborg for this movie. But that's just a minor complaint. A lot of people would disagree with that. That was just my minor complaint. It's just because as a regular person, I know more about Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman.
Right. Whereas,
fanboys will know more about, the Flash or Cyborg,
right,
that kind of stuff. One of the biggest beefs that I have is the Lord of the Rings type of ending.
Oh no!
It actually comes
like 5 endings.
Yeah, where it just comes in with the ending after ending. They kind of did that with Justice League, but
yeah, and Endgame.
Yeah, and they call it the epilogue in this film, and the epilogue itself feels like an hour, and I think that's why it actually was drawn out. In fact, when we were watching this movie, we had a 14-year-old teenager who basically got bored and he was about to leave, and somebody joked and said, "Hey, don't leave yet. There's still 10 more endings." Okay, so some of the stuff was kind of drowned out, and I want to say it kind of cause it to feel it, to make things seem to a little bit too long. And when you do a 4-hour movie like that, at some point you're going to stop caring to know what actually proceeds with the plot. I think the fanboys who love Easter eggs, they're the ones who's going to enjoy a film like this the most. The rest of us, it's just so. And if we don't know our stuff, then then there's really no point. But for fanboys and Zack Snyder fans, I think they'll probably enjoy this a lot more than my perspective.
So fair to say, potentially a generality that from your point of view, the theatrical cut would be more general audience, while this one general audience may get a kick out of it, but it's like WandaVision. The more comics you know, the more you're getting out of stuff in the background.
Yeah, and I mean, I could put my 2 cents on WandaVision, and I think you guys will tend to agree to disagree, is because a lot of you guys probably love WandaVision and so on. But to a person who's not familiar with Scarlet Witch and Agatha or anything, anything like that, when we actually watch it, WandaVision was just it wasn't like a great series. It wasn't, it was not something new. And Agatha herself was just a villain caricature. It wasn't, it wasn't like like deep, like Thanos or something like that. So, and the first 3 episodes to some of us felt very unnecessary. We didn't see where the point was going. And the ending to WandaVision was a letdown. But of course, some people, I do know some people, like on your podcast, Nick called it that WandaVision stuck its landing. And then I was like scratching my head. It was like, stuck its landing. You're saying it was a 10 out of 10. But it all comes from perspective in its own way. If you come from the what part of the Zack Snyder's army or part of the DC universe, and the little comic book stuff, or where this Justice League is actually leading to, then I'm sure you're going to enjoy all the extended deleted scenes, all the different multiple endings, because it's going to open up to a possible future DC movies. And so on, and that's what I think DC fans were actually craving for, because that's the thing that Marvel does best, right? They always tease you what's the next 3 to 5 movies, the plots down the road, and what they were hoping for to do in this DC movie is to start plotting, for the next Flash movie, for the next Aquaman movie, the next Shazam movie, or even possibly another Justice League movie. And I think that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to find that winning formula. The question is, does it work? And for me, I actually stopped caring at that point of the movie.
Manny, in reaction to his spoiler-free stuff, we'll give a spoiler warning and we'll do some light spoiler talk and wrap it up. You want to say, ask anything based on what he had to say, Manny, or anything?
No, actually, well, what I want to ask him more than anything is in your opinion, is this Snyder cut worth all the years of hype and storyboards and clips and images that Zack Snyder kept putting out?
The time and money of the fans to put billboards, make ads, videos.
Well, the answer is a definite yes. And the only reason why is because the last one was just simply not his movie. Okay. And the amount of time, the amount of money to basically come up with the movie, what the original intention of the director is what we should actually invest in. If this is what the movie that we were supposed to get, now we got it. It's like the same thing with, in my opinion, I don't know if you remember this movie called AI.
Yeah.
With
with
Robin Williams and what was the little
no,
kid?
what I don't think Robin Williams was in that movie, but it is the little
No,
kid.
that's Millennial Man. That I was thinking
Yeah.
Millennium Man.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. AI had that little kid where where he's the android and so on, and that director died halfway through that movie, and then Steven Spielberg took over, and the second half just became like a Pinocchio type of thing. And sometimes when you see a movie like that, you always wonder, like, what was the original intention of the director? Because then it feels like it was two different movies, and then becomes two different visions, becomes a horrible movie, downright. So in this case, the original Justice League, to me, you watch it, and then you start to wonder, going, okay, what was Zack Snyder and what was Joss Whedon? Now in this case, this is all Zack Snyder and no Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
And what was it actually worth it? I would say it's a definite yes, especially for the fans. It's because this is all Zack Snyder. This completes his trilogy of his vision of the Snyderverse, if that's what you guys actually called it.
Very nice. Manny, I will let you kind of lead the discussion with the spoilers. I really don't care what's spoiled, but ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into some light spoilers. Manny, as the DC guy here, is going to kind of guide it, make sure we don't go too far. But if you don't want to know anything, thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. Check out LRM_exclusive for word on that Justice League review podcast. Manny.
So one of the biggest things that's been billed as far as a new addition is the big bad that's supposed to be of the DC universe, Darkseid, and some of his cohorts like Desaad, and we even seen Granny Goodness. How much of them do we see in the film? Are they just looming in the background? Or do they actually play any more significant role?
The answer is yes. They actually play a little bit more significant role. If you remember from the first Justice League movie, remember the scene where I want to say Steppenwolf came onto the planet and all the armies united to actually fight him. That scene has been changed to so instead of Steppenwolf coming down to the planet, it's actually Darkseid.
I figured.
Wow, nice.
Okay, so they actually changed that scene, and it's a much more extended battle of that scene. The other guy, what was his name? The one with the cloak and the cape.
Desaad.
Desaad. He periodically shows up. It's because he communicates with Steppenwolf.
Makes sense.
Okay, he's basically like the messenger and so on. And then towards the end, you will see Darkseid, Desaad, and you see what's his name, Granny
Goodness.
Granny Goodness. I could tell you Granny Goodness is just a cameo. Okay, but without going into major spoilers, yes, they do show up. Okay, so it's not one of those things where they're just in the background or they're just talked about. Where I think if more reference to what, like the before the Avengers movie, where it's just you kind of know about the Thanos. There's actually scenes with them in this movie. It's 4 hours. There has to be scenes.
Yeah.
How much of a significant part is now additional nightmare sequences?
They talk about nightmare sequences. If I recall from the first Justice League movie, Batman was the one who actually had the nightmare sequences. In this one, the nightmare sequences occur with two characters, Batman and Cyborg. Cyborg is the one that actually gets the nightmare sequence because if you watch the movie, something triggers for him to see sort of the future. Okay, this film, in my opinion, failed to explain why Batman had a nightmare sequence. But the nightmare sequence was actually for Batman was in the epilogue. And by that time, I actually stopped caring. And I think you know which nightmare sequence we're actually talking about, because that's the teaser in the trailer that actually is. So for those people who are spoiler alert, because I know I was watching the film and some people watching with me would be shouting, well, where's the freaking Joker?
Oh no.
Whoops.
Okay. And the answer is
In the epilogue.
in the epilogue.
So you gotta wait.
I really felt that was going to be one of those almost like bait and switch things where there's enough people who care about the Joker, Jared Leto's Joker, that if you dangle him in front of him,
And he's
they're gonna be
still
you're gonna be excited. 4 hours of a movie.
Well, if I could tell you that I didn't care at that point whether the Joker actually showed up or so on, but his scene is a little bit more extended than what's shown on the trailer. So don't worry that is he just in the background laughing? No, he actually has something to say, but I was so tired by that point, I didn't really care what he had to say.
Were you too tired to notice if Leto was giving a good performance? Did he seem to dig what he was doing?
Oh yeah, Leto enjoys playing the Joker.
Yeah,
and I do have to admit he looked a bit crazy in this sequence. So I'm sure once you guys actually view it, you guys could probably spend an hour talking about it itself. And there is another cameo that they actually did film a lot more, and that's with Joe Manganiello with Slade. He actually came back to film an additional scene, and but don't get your hopes up. That too is in the epilogue.
Okay.
Okay. And that was, from my understand, from what I've heard, that scene was filmed was because he was supposed to have his own movie.
Right.
With the next Batman, movie with Ben Affleck. And I don't know, is Ben Affleck completely out kind of in his own way?
He's got
he's going to be in the Flash. Yeah.
Left to
but he's not having his own Batman movie anymore.
No.
So as an apology, they went ahead and filmed an additional scene with his character. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest downfalls for this movie, is to include those Easter eggs, and then it just leaves you hanging. If there isn't another Justice League movie that makes that where you have a cliffhanger and you never get that that other step that actually comes down. So hopefully Warner Brothers will do something about that, meaning that someone, whether Snyderverse continues or not, someone has to take that torch and start moving with it, because Zack Snyder has already started that plot line, unless they're just going to completely reboot it, which is a possibility with the Flash movie. Then that basically means that we just wasted all of our time watching all these movies.
I think it's going to be an established, like they showed in the CW crossover, and an established multiverse. We won't ever see this universe again, but it does exist. Manny, anything else you want to continue with?
Yeah. What was the R rating necessary, and what in your opinion gave it the necessary R rating that Zack Snyder includes?
The R rating, I'm trying to think. The R rating Zack Snyder had. Let me address that. Is it positive? I always enjoy Zack Snyder's visual directing, because of ever since 300. I used to be on board of Zack Snyder, but for someone on reason, like after 300, he kind of like fell apart with that one film with a bunch of girls, with the loud music. Sucker Punch, and then he did like the owls of Gahul and all this kind of stuff, and then after that it's just it just kind of went downhill.
Dawn of the Dead was bad.
Yeah. So what it is, when you're talking about R rating, you're talking about the kills, okay, the violence. So in this case, it would have been nice to see it on the large screen. So this way you could actually see decapitations. You could actually see body splitting in half. Wow. You know, that kind of stuff. So Steppenwolf does a number on regular people.
Ooh, not just the Amazons.
Okay, so it's because he has like a, you know, what do they call it? A vorpal weapon that's you know, slices people in half and so on. So you'll see that, I mean, its own way. But I've seen so many movies. I'm kind of like, you know, none of these movies is completely in shock unless you're really showing, you know, bloods and guts, you know, spilling out of their bodies. You know, I mean, I've seen so many horror movies. In this case, you know, eyeballs flying. It's not that type of, you know, R.
Did the R come as a PR stunt? Then do you think it probably could have gotten a PG-13, or
I think they could have easily got a PG-13. I think if they cut out, because the fact that you know, the certain, you know, the splitting of bodies and all this kind of stuff, they could have easily remove that. And I think there was a few cuss words that said in the movie, and to me, you know, I don't even know why cuss words even push anybody towards an R now these days.
I don't know. It's funny. Not to interject too much, but when it comes to curse words, you know, I got a kid, and I use curse words all the time, but we in-house we just call them grown-up words, because there's no such thing. I like Thor, what he said, all words are made up. Technically there's no such thing as a bad word, there's only bad ways to use them, yada yada yada. And it's worked. He won't even curse for money because he's not a grown-up. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So Manny, more questions. I'm sure you have like a dozen questions. Go for it, Manny.
I have a bunch of questions, and some of them I don't know.
Go for it.
I don't know if I want to know them, just because of the fact. Well, I mean, a lot of them.
They cover your ears, and I'll let the audience hear.
So do we see? So with maybe don't give me a name, just to. But do we see another Justice League member show up by any chance?
Besides Martian Manhunt, which we know about.
Oh, okay. So you guys do know about that?
Yeah.
Are you actually referring to Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah.
Possibly. The answer is Ryan Reynolds is correct. He is not in the movie.
Besides the dark side sequence in the beginning where he fights pretty much Earth, is there any other lantern in the film?
You saw a lantern in the original film,
right during that sequence.
Yeah, during that sequence. That character has a little bit more expanded role.
Okay.
I want to say an extra 15, maybe 10 seconds.
Oh, I thought you were about to say 15 minutes. I was like, oh,
no. About
are we getting?
I mean, no, it's not to the point where like you know who he is or anything like that, but you'll see his face a little clearer.
I got one, Manny. Are there any, like I said, other than the Martian Manhunter and like a Green Lantern we saw before, are there any hero name drops that we haven't seen on screen yet?
You know what? No, I don't think they actually name dropped any new heroes at this point. So if you're talking about like other Justice League members, maybe like like Hawk and
Hawkman or something. Yeah. If they alluded to
you know what?
Shazam or anything.
Hold on. From a non-fanboy perspective, because I had to look it up, the answer is yes. There is somebody in the film that I I was made aware of that he is a superhero character. Okay, down the road,
not active.
But to a non-fanboy like myself, I did not know that, and to a lot of people, they do not know that, and his real name was revealed in the epilogue.
Oh.
Okay. And then so to comic book fans, if you pay attention to, because a lot of people fall asleep during the epilogue by then, when the name is mentioned, then you'll be like, oh my gosh, that guy is so and so. Okay. But it's not, it's sort of like a passing type of thing. You really have to pay attention and realize who that person is.
It
So
might be
yes,
tough to do during the epilogue.
yeah. So yes, it is. It's very brief, and but it is an Easter egg. You're right. Yeah, someone is actually, and then the funniest thing is that you would barely remember that he was in the movie. So there is a reference to the character. I don't know if that's something that they were planning to introduce in future DC movies, but it was actually mentioned.
Don't say anything right or wrong, but Manny, I'm thinking Todd Red Hood, possibly. What do you think from that? What he just said?
No,
Who do you think then?
I don't know.
I don't even know. Only reason I say that is because Joker's part of the epilogue, and I think Snyder said that in his mind, Joker killed Grayson, not.
Yeah, he said Joker killed Grayson. Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, like, it'd be kind of weird to see Todd show up as Red Hood. But anyway,
there is in the nightmare sequence with the Joker, there is another character. I don't know who he is, but he's in full costume.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But they never really said his name. So to a non-fanboy myself, I do kind of know, but I don't want to reveal it to you guys. But to some people, they may would like to actually see that and cheer for the character, because I think it is actually a popular character, but it's not who you think. It may be who you think when you actually see the sequence, and but because I think it has kind of leaked out already.
Manny, anything else?
Yeah, you talk a lot about the epilogue, and we know that Justice League was supposed to be the start of a 3-part Justice League movie that Snyder's talked about. And now in this version, being that it's pretty much a solo film, does it at all try to tie it up with a bow during the epilogue, or does it leave you hanging like this is what you could have got, suckers?
Yes, your latter conclusion is correct. It hangs with the cliffhanger, with the epilogue, with the nightmare sequence, and then you're just sitting there going, am I going to get this? Because if I'm not going to get this, it's going to be a huge letdown. And the answer is yes. It kind of leads to Justice League 2 and 3 if there was a part of if that trilogy was going to happen. But because now it's not going to happen, that's where you have to take it to the fact that, okay, you know what? Hopefully the Flash just resets everything. and it's not going to happen unless it's going to happen with the other movies, if you know what I mean. So in reality, we don't know if it's going to happen, is because it hasn't happened yet, because we don't know what Warner Brothers actually has entailed for the next 10 years with this franchise. But yeah, it leaves you with a huge cliffhanger with Darkseid. That's where you're actually coming to. It's sort of like what happens if you actually took a Marvel Thanos and then it ends with he collected all the gems from the glove, and then they basically said, okay, we're done.
Damn.
Okay, it's sort of like that. So yeah. That by itself, I want to say it's not a letdown yet is because Warner Brothers still has a chance to make those movies.
True.
Yeah, we got to talk quite in depth with Manny and Jace about the alleged storyboards for 2 and 3 that were released. And with the multiverse idea, I because we both, I was it you and I, Manny, that said it was kind of selfish, or no, me and Jace. We looked at the end of the Justice League trilogy as it was allegedly supposed to happen, and we were like, you leave all of these characters unusable almost, as far as like comics stuff, in future movies, and it was almost now, hindsight 2020, almost like Snyder was developing his own pocket universe, a multiverse to begin with. Like, what do you think about that, Manny? Do you think he knew or hoped that Warner Brothers would still use the characters elsewhere outside of his thing? Because he does so much that pigeonholes them.
Well, I mean, it was his universe to build. He was producer on a lot of the other films and had his input in. So he was, for a lack of a better term, Warner Brothers Feige for DC.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people panicked and decided to go different directions.
Do you think that's why, though? Because they saw that it would be difficult without multiverse and whatnot to use the characters if you went down his. We know why he left Justice League. Nobody's taking anything from his tragedy. I'm saying specifically all the flack he took from the get go.
No, I do not think a studio is that dumb to let him start without knowing the path he was going to take. There had to be already meetings, and
they had faith, and it just didn't work out.
And I don't. Well, they did, and then they panicked afterwards and changed their mind.
Yeah,
that's what I do feel happened. But I they knew which way he was going. They knew what the no pun intended, end game was going to be with him. But with how successful lighter films were, I think that's where things got weird. Plus, WB's been shifting executives for the past few years. So what one group of people may have liked, or one head may have liked, another one did not. So there's just a lot of factors that go with it. But so to say that he was pigeon-toeing characters on purpose so nobody else can use them, I think no, it was just that the main goal was to Justice League 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. And I didn't mean it like he was being a jerk and like they're all mine. I just meant that his story itself was selfish because it pigeonholed him. But you are right. He was tapped to do it, and they got scared. So yeah, you got more for.
I want to also point out is Deborah Snyder is still listed as producer in all the future movies.
Oh wow! Okay,
so that's interesting.
So from my understanding, even though this may be Zack Snyder's last movie, it doesn't mean that Deborah Snyder is not going to be influencing the future movies. In fact, one of my unpublished interviews that I have not published yet is I did talk with producer Deborah Snyder about this Justice League movie. I didn't talk to Zack Snyder, but I did talk about Deborah Snyder. And we actually addressed whether this is going to be sort of like a future precedence with other movies, whether if directors are going to all have their own chance to come up with a director's cut in its own way. But because she answered that question, that signaled to me that she's still going to be involved in future movies. Does that actually make sense? So that's why I think there is actually hope beyond this Justice League movie. It might not be Zack Snyder because, I think he just got burned too much and he's tired. And I think it's just time for him to move on to something else, which I don't blame him. And I also think that Warner Brothers want to bring in other directors at this point. And that's what they're actually doing. They brought in other directors. The Suicide Squad is being done by someone else. Aquaman was a success. Patty Jenkins, her first Wonder Woman was a surprise. So they actually know that they just need a variety of directors, just like Marvel. The only difference that that I find with Marvel is sometimes Marvel gambles on first or second time directors that you never heard of. That's why I jokingly tell people who says Captain Marvel is the best movie has ever made, when that at first actually came out. And now, like years later, I would say, if Captain Marvel was such a great movie, name the directors of Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And no one could tell me that. And that's because Captain Marvel was not the best movie, ever made. And if it was so great, those two directors from Captain Marvel, they would get a second chance, and they did not.
That's a very fair point.
It was a B minus at its very, very best.
Oh,
the
B,
one thing
huh?
I can say about it never got worse and it never got better on rewatches. It is literally a lukewarm movie, which is, I guess, an accomplishment sometimes, because these days it's like really awesome or really bad. It's almost hard to find something that you can, it's on, I can watch it, something new.
Well, and this Zack Snyder movie, by the way, I saw it twice, so it is rewatchable for the fact that in case if you want to go back and you think you missed something. Wonder Woman 1984 to me is not rewatchable.
No,
okay?
absolutely not.
Suicide Squad was not rewatchable. Okay, but the first Wonder Woman was very rewatchable again. So this Justice League movie, the reason why I gave it just, like a C, a solid C, is because it's not bad. It's just not great. So I'm unlike a lot of critics out there. It's it's passable. It did its job, is what I wanted to say.
Nice. Manny, anything else before we start wrapping up? Any
No.
last questions?
No, I think we're good for now.
Oh, cool. Gig, thank you so much for coming on today, giving us a little bit of insight into Justice League from your point of view. Really appreciate that. Everyone, make sure you are checking out the YouTube channel, LRM Online YouTube channel. Celebrity interviews, writers, directors, producers, actors, actresses, the whole nine. The podcasts are there. LRMornings on video. We're trying to do live shows with other things, and LRMornings is live on Thursdays with me and Manny usually, but tomorrow might be iffy because of the Justice League thing. So stay tuned to LRM _ exclusive. Gig, where can people find you at online?
I don't know if I need you fanboys to be finding me online. But it is at Gig Patta on Twitter and also on Instagram.
Manny, yourself.
You can find me at LRM _ Emmanuel on Twitter, and you can find me at riddlemethis _ 510 on Instagram.
Do you have anything coming up in the future related to your hat?
My hat? Actually, yeah, I have a couple of pieces on some interesting conversations I had with the director and producer for Mortal Kombat, as well as I'm not 100% sure yet, but some of the cast members as well. Those are going to be those will be video interviews.
Very cool. You guys, don't forget to check out the podcast channel. Find me at that Kyle Malone on Twitter, at that one Kyle Malone on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will talk to you next time.